Cuphead is infamous for its unforgiving gameplay, ridiculously tough bosses, and one undeniable fact: the smoke bomb is the best perk in the game, no matter how you play. After revisiting this game on stream and making it back to Inkwell Hell 2, I caught up with my good mate Quadrus, who pointed out that I hadn't died yet. A pretty cool achievement if R1 wasn't basically a tutorial. That's when I had quite a stupid idea. What if I could go from smacking around this blue bouncing ball all the way to the devil himself without dying once? The rules for this challenge are quite simple. If at any time I die, whether that's through a run and gun level or dying by a boss, I have to delete the save file and begin an entire new run. Additionally, no DLC content is allowed, so that means no Miss Chalice and none of the new weapons or charms. Before we even took on the level, we already face a challenge. We have nothing to defend ourselves with, so of course we go to Elder Kettle, and he gives us just what we wanted: steroids. This allows us to quickly relearn the controls and nab a quick free coin, and rob our local neighbour, who generously donates another 3 coins to this challenge.
Welcome.
And of course this is all going to, you guessed it, more roids.
Goodbye.
After picking up spread from Pork Ryan's shop, that doesn't sound right. After grabbing another 5 coins from Forest Follies, we head back to the shop and get the smoke bomb, which is by far the most useful item in this entire run. This is because it turns our dash into a teleport. Pair that with the spread shot I picked up earlier, and I can suddenly play way more aggressively against these bosses. The teleport keeps me alive, the spread mounts bosses up close. While this more aggressive tactic is risky, it means I can fly through these earlier bosses since they're quite easy and simple compared to the ones we'll face in the future. That's why I decided to go after one of the hardest bosses on Inkwell Hell 1 straight away: Cagney Carnation. By taking on the more difficult bosses first, I save time in the long run. Basically, if I do end up dying, I wouldn't have wasted so much time by defeating the easier bosses first, just to go to the more difficult ones. Let's break down the route we'll be taking. First, we head straight for Cagney, the second hardest boss I can reach immediately using this shortcut. From there, we'll move through the easier fights, such as the Root Pack, which will unlock Ruby and Croaks, the frogs I consider to be the real challenge in this world. Both the Blue Bouncing Ball and Hildeberg are incredibly easy, but they must be defeated in this order. And with that, our path through R1 is locked in. Now it's just a matter of putting it into action.
Now go!
Cagney Carnation lets controlling the entire screen, whether that's through throwing out acorns, throwing himself forward on the screen, or this weird boomerang attack. However, none of these are as dangerous as his seed attack. If you do not watch out for this move, your screen can get clogged up in about 2 seconds and then you're dead. It's quite an annoying move, but as long as you're paying attention, you should be fine. Phase 2 of Cagney Carnation, however, is even easier. And that's just very simply because he doesn't have half the moves he had a second ago, which clogged up the entire screen. Sure, you lose the bottom half of the stage, but that is a pretty fair trade in my opinion, since he also loses half his attacks, and most importantly, loses his best attack. Before heading to the Root Pack, I must first defeat the next run and gun level, Tree Trop Trouble. The real danger in this level is definitely the parkour section at the end alongside the mini boss. Most people take it carefully, and honestly that's the smart move, but since this is a deathless run where we have to focus on speed so we don't waste our time, I threw patience out the window and just simply jumped over it by jumping at the exact end of this leaf.
Bravo! Match will get red hot. It's on!
First up is Spud, the big ass potato. His whole gimmick is spitting out dirt clumps across the ground every 3 attacks, and on every 4th attack it's a worm which you can parry. That's it, nothing else. Next up is the Onion, which gives us this huge window to get a bunch of free damage off straight away, which obviously hurts his feelings because then he just cries everywhere until he dies. Finally, the big old Carrot. He's definitely the toughest of the trio because he has 2 unique moves this time, one being carrots that track you down and the other one being psychic laser beams he shoots at his forehead. I can only imagine what the developers were on while making this. This allows us to move on to Ruby and Croaks, who nearly makes me restart due to the fact of how RNG dependent they are. You see, phase 1 is quite simple. They both just alternate with their own unique attacks, whether that be fireflies or hurtling fists at your face. Whenever the fireflies attack, you just hug the frog's feet and shoot up whenever they appear, but whenever they're hurtling fists at you, if you just practice social distancing and go to the other side of the screen, you'll be perfectly fine and you just have to jump, duck, and then that's it. Phase 2 is where things start to get a bit tricky because Ruby evolves into a fan. Meanwhile, Croaks is hurtling UFOs at you? As long as you stay in the middle and dash when needed, you'll be perfectly fine here. Phase 3 involves a fusion summon into a slot machine. This is where the heavy RNG comes into play. By parrying the crank, one of 3 attacks will be randomly selected. 2 are fairly easy to defeat, that being both the bull, which just involves jumping and ducking at very easy patterns, and the snake, which involves just jumping on very simple platforms. The hardest role is definitely the tiger attack. For reference, if you're landing most shots, they should be defeated by the 3rd spin. So you'd think would see each pattern once, but no. I got tiger 3 times in a row. That's a 1 in 27 chance, or about 3.7%. But thankfully on my 4th spin, it was a snake, and then he immediately died. Cuphead Deathless, infamous for being the easiest boss in Cuphead. Phase 1, he bounces. Phase 2, he grows up and adds a punch to the mix, but mostly still just bounces. And Phase 3, he's a gravestone, and now he's actually dead. Moving on. Before I can head to R2, I have to take to the skies and deal with Hildeberg. Phase 1 involves her spawning zeppelins which shoot little pellets at you while she laughs in your face like you've just asked her out. Phase 2 however is very unique as you'll randomly transform into one of 3 different forms. First is Taurus. He charges from across the screen and that's about it. However, we can take advantage of this because whenever he attacks, he actually extends his hitbox. So if I time an EX move correctly, just when he's about mid-charge, it will shred his health bar by the time he's lunged at me. Next up is Gemini. The twins spawn a vortex that spits out vertical waves, and despite what a lot of people think, these waves do not come out horizontally at all. Instead, the pattern always scrolls vertically. The only randomness is whether it starts from the top or from the bottom. Sagittarius is the last transformation, firing an arrow across the screen accompanied by 3 homing stars. The arrow itself is predictable, but the stars will chase you down, forcing you to keep moving, otherwise you'll be boxed in. In an average run, you'll probably run into 2 of these forms before reaching her final phase. The frickin' moon. Despite her taking up nearly half of the screen, she's actually not the biggest threat here. The biggest threat is actually the UFOs and the stars. The stars are actually very hard to notice because they blend in with the environment, so by the time you've actually seen them, it's probably already too late. There are actually 2 types of UFOs here. The grey ones fire practically instantly the second you go near them, so you have to bait them out. The red ones however have a delay to them, so you have to dash in front of them before they box you in and hit you. The same tactic with Taurus can also be applied here to get extra damage off. Congratulations, you've officially beaten Cuphead's tutorial. From here on out, things are going to get a lot tougher, and in return, a lot more analytical. So, let me explain a couple of things. Each isle in Cuphead follows a pretty consistent formula. There is always 2 run and gun levels, 1 hidden coin, 1 unlockable super, and at least 5 bosses. Each super has a different ability, but if you've been paying attention, you'll notice I haven't actually picked up the first one, and that's on purpose. You see, the trade-off for using Super Art 1 is, well, pathetic. It costs all 5 EX cards and in return you get 87 damage and it can leave you in a vulnerable state. For comparison, a single EX pea shooter shot does about 25 damage, which means if I use all 5 EXs normally, that's 125 damage. We'll mainly be using the spread shot, pea shooter and later on the charge shot. An EX spread shot can dish out up to 34 damage if all the pellets connect, and the charge shot's EX dishes about 26. Now you could swap out the pea shooter for the roundabout, and honestly it's a pretty solid option. Roundabout's damage is great, especially the EX move. The only downside to the roundabout is that the range can be inconsistent, since you have to look behind you to get the most optimal range. I just don't like having to worry about that, since in my opinion, consistency is king. Inkwell 2 has another 5 bosses for us to take down, and the majority of them have made me restart at least once. First up is Jimmy the Great, the Genie. Easily one of the longest fights in the entire game, with 5 separate phases to get through. He isn't the hardest boss in Isle 2, but the sheer length means one mistake can drag a perfect run straight into the ground. Phase 1 starts with him opening a big box that launches cats across the screen. Once it lands on the other side, they pop open and release mice that home in on you. He also randomly does this skull attack, which where he launches his entire head across the screen like a ghost. Turns out, this actually only happens once. The only reason why I found out was because when I was getting extra footage for this video, I actually realised that he was just taking so long to do another attack, so I decided to test it out and just sit here. He also does have another 2 attacks that can happen in Phase 1. This one of course being where he's just throwing treasure at you, and the other one involves swords that fly at you at their own respective time. I would also just like to note that you can only ever encounter one of these attacks during the phase. so you will never encounter both the riches and the swords in phase 1 during one fight. Next up is the side scroller. The Jimmy's body becomes a series of stone pillars, blocking your path. You have to shoot the faces to open a gap and slip through, while dodging saw blades flying diagonally across the screen. It's also important to note that the pillars are actually linked to the Jimmy's overall health, so overkilling with bombs or EX moves is actually vital to speeding up the boss. After that, the Jimmy crawls out of sarcophagus in slug form, firing wave-like eyeballs while ghosts pour out to chase you down. The eyeballs alternate between wide and narrow waves, forcing constant movement. The ghosts that fly out come out in 3 different speeds, alternating between slow and fast. This is where I like to use my 5 EX cards that I have built up to use my special, because I hate this phase and I want to quickly get past it. In phase 4, the Jimmy scans Cuphead, laughs and creates a puppet version of you and calls it Cuphead. He hovers around firing almost vertical bullet lines to block off the screen. While doing so, he also shoots pellets, one of which can be parried. Meanwhile, the Jimmy's turban follows you around and starts to spit out rotating bullet spray. The key here is to actually stay in the centre of the screen near the Cuphead. And that's because if you dodge too far away from the screen, you will get blocked off and cornered by the turban. Finally, the Jimmy eats a super mushroom and goes ginormous. He summons 3 golden pyramids to orbit around you. Each pyramid opens its eye to fire cross-like shaped beams, while the Jimmy shoots rings from his turban jewel. You can be incredibly patient at this phase, or you can do what I did. I got another 5 EX cards to this point, so I can instantly use my super and kill him practically instantly, dodging this really annoying final phase. Before I headed into this fight, I actually swung to the shop really quickly and bought this charge shot. Baroness von Bonbon is up next, and she's easily the most colourful boss in all of Cuphead. In her first phase, she'll actually randomly summon one of 5 different minions. Lord Godpacker slowly chases you down and comes with a mini jawbreaker. Conniving Candy Corn weaves in a figure 8 and can spawn smaller versions of itself. Musky Chernakov jumps and creates shockwaves where they land. Greedy Gumball runs around and rains down gumballs at the same time. Weasley Waffle splits into 8 pieces, shooting projectiles for each side and corner of a square. Before we can even fight Baroness herself, we have to survive 3 random minions first. Once the second minion is out, a jelly bean appears armed with a sword. Once the third and final minion is deployed, Baroness herself also jumps in, attacking you with her candy cane almost like a shotgun. As soon as the third minion is down, we can finally enter phase 2, where she starts chasing us with her entire castle. This is where she starts ripping her own head off and throwing at you like it's a homing missile, all while the castle is spitting out rolling peppermints that can flatten you if you're not careful. Man, I love this game. You can also parry the peppermints for a little boost, but it won't give you much super meter / EX cards, so it's just really for more movement and survival. So if you've ever had anything to do with the Cuphead community, you're probably wondering why I'm not heading straight for the dragon. Well, there's a simple reason. I think the dragon is way easier than people make out, and honestly I actually consider Wally Warbles, the bird boss, to actually be the toughest fight in this entire area. And I'll explain why in just a second, but first let me break down phase 1. Phase 1 starts us off with 2 main attacks. The first one being Wally spitting out giant eggs that then explode into 3 fragments. He also mixes in a finger gun attack where he shoots 3 bullets in a spread-like pattern. This first phase I actually believe is free. That's because all you have to do is hug the left wall. Whenever he attacks, you just simply move down slightly or up slightly. That's it. There are also 3 yellow birds and 1 pink one that flies across the map, but they'll spawn either at the bottom or the top, so you just go to the opposite side thereon. Once you do enough damage, he'll begin to overwhelm you with his feather attack. Again, I can't stress this enough, just hug the side of the map. You'll have more space to work with since the feathers will spread further apart. I like to save all my EX cards during this first phase, and that's because I use them immediately on phase 2. Wally's son Willy takes over. He floats around the screen with spiky eggs orbiting around him. These eggs constantly expand and contract at random times. But yet again, this is what I thought it was. It's actually fixed. As you can see, I've laid 2 runs on top of each other, and in phase 2, Willy actually follows the exact same path every time, looping in a figure 8. The only randomness here is whether he starts moving north or south. After that, it's scripted. As you can see in both of these runs, Willy went the same direction. I actually looked into this and I couldn't find any explanation anywhere, so I just presumed the developers made it seem random by changing his starting direction. So we can of course use this to our advantage. The only issue is it took me a while to figure this out, and until I actually did figure this out, I failed 4 times beforehand solely on this phase. Once you got the pattern down, you'll breeze on to phase 3. Here we immediately fly to the top left corner and use our new bomb attack, the one we picked up from this cheery bloke. He's got 2 main attacks here. First, his head turns into a trash can and he spits out all kinds of junk at you, and one of them is a pink boot, which you can actually parry. The second one is just a tiny bit more disgusting. He regurgitates his own heart and shoots pellets at you with it. When he actually does this, you can actually only damage him by attacking his heart. The paramedic birds aren't actually just for decoration here. They'll shoot pills at you into the air that split apart after a second or so, and sometimes they'll be pink for an extra parry chance. In this phase, bombs are mandatory. It's very easy for the screen to get filled up here, so if you get too overwhelmed, just dash to the other side of the screen and stay patient. We scrambled him earlier, but now he's back on a stretcher, so now I've just got to fold him like an omelette. Actually, before we take on Beppy, there's something important I need to grab. Super Art 2. This ability is absolutely essential for any tactics going forward, especially the dragon fight and Beppy. I also went ahead and did the run and gun level, Funfair Fever, even though I didn't actually need to. I don't need any more coins because I have everything I need, and it's not required to progress, but we started doing pacifist predictions halfway through this challenge because, well, someone has a problem. So I guess this is actually a part of the challenge now. Don't worry, I'll make this quick. Just note, you will need to tank 2 hits, so make sure you have enough health, and you will need the smoke bomb. Dash for these guys, just make sure the platform is still up on the opposite side. Do a mid jump here and aim in between the cannons, then dash. Tank a hit here, and boom. You've got pacifist. Phase 1 starts with Beppy in his bumper car. It will inch back and forth for a few seconds, then charge across the screen. The trick is simple, just dash over him when he makes his move. Careful when you dash though, because there are floating ducks up above, and you can dash directly into them. Some also carry light bulbs, and if you shoot the duck or run underneath the duck, it will drop. I used a spread shot when Beppy attacks, and this is because it deals with the ducks since they are literally one shot. You can also parry a pink duck, just be careful that you don't just jump into it. In phase 2, Beppy blows himself up like a balloon and starts spitting out balloon dogs from the pipes on each side. They'll home in on you, but they're weak, so a few shots will pop them. Sometimes they'll be pink, giving you a free parry. This is also where the roller coaster joins the fight. It cuts across the bottom of the screen with spikes on the front and back, and passenger cars sit in the middle that you'll need to jump over. The nose is also pink too, so you can also parry that if you didn't know. Phase 3 has Beppy cycling between 2 different horses, each with their own attack. The main tactic behind both of these variations is to stand underneath the horse and just shoot upwards. The green horse is definitely the easier variation. It shoots out 2 horseshoes in a wave pattern, and one of them is sometimes pink, so you can get a quick parry while keeping the screen nice and clear. The yellow horse though is way trickier. It spits out a row of horseshoes that later come crashing down. This becomes especially dangerous if the roller coaster shows up. Luckily, you can actually predict it if you look at the background, which I know can be difficult with things flying on the screen, but the roller coaster will be moving towards you or just not there at all. When it does roll in, instead of hugging underneath the horse like usual, you want to stand in the open so you can't get caught off guard or stuck underneath the horse and be forced to take damage. After Beppy takes yet another tumble, he comes back one last time, this time as a swing ride. He spawns swinging platforms that constantly move to the right. These platforms are your lifeline here, since without them you can't consistently dodge the roller coaster. Beppy's main attack now is spitting out green penguin clowns. You can kill them or just wait for the roller coaster to clear them out, which can be pretty satisfying to be honest. Meanwhile, the roller coaster itself gets way more dangerous. It's much faster and almost every other seat has a passenger. This is where we'll be using all the EX cards we've been saving. And because we saved up all 5 EX cards, we are now able to activate Super Art 2, which briefly makes us invincible. So, if we use this immediately after one of the penguins start firing and just focus fire on Beppy, then we will have beaten this boss before he can even actually hit us. Before heading off to the dragon, I actually did the second run and gun level, Funhouse Frazzle. There's honestly not much to talk about here though. The main gimmick is the rotating gravity and those weird wall mouths. But if you're going for pacifist, the trick is simple. You have to dodge through the mouths instead of trying to fight them. That's really all there is to it.
This match will get red hot. Here goes.
Grim Matchstick, definitely the most recognised and infamous boss in all of Cuphead. In this first phase, Grim stays on the right side of the arena, hitting the players with a few key attacks. He starts off by shooting ripples from his eyes, 3 ring-like projectiles at first, which becomes 4 once he loses some health. The last ring of the beam is always pink, so of course you can parry it. Next he can spit large fireballs that travel in a wave-like pattern. Occasionally he fires 2 at once in a crisscross pattern, but only after hitting a damage threshold. Something actually quite interesting that I found out, in regular mode Grim always starts with the eye ripple, but in simple and expert mode he can begin with either attack. I have no idea why this is. He also uses his tail, jabbing at the bottom of the screen. Pay attention to both the bottom of the arena and the sound cue for his tail wiggling is the best cue to dodge. Once you've done enough damage, Grim will slowly disappear to the right and fly across the background, only to reappear on the bottom left and kick off phase 2. A whole parade of marching fireballs will walk across his tongue, acting as moving obstacles. Most of these fireballs are harmless walkers, but the grunny ones are the real threat. They'll crouch to telegraph their jump and then leap either towards you or across to the right side of the screen. The trick here is very simple. The second you see them jump, you just jump. You can also try and go in the opposite direction that they go. For example, if they jump left, you jump right and dash. Can be tricky though when dashing, so do be careful because you can drop in between the platforms and get hit. If you struggle on this phase, I suggest just using the chaser because you can just focus on defense and dodging. However, it will make this phase take longer to progress because you'll be taking less damage. I also wouldn't even bother using any EX cards during phase 1 or 2. If you really need to, go for it, just don't use it near the end of phase 2 because you will need 4 to 5 cards during phase 3. Talking about phase 3, in the final phase takes place in a rainstorm and Grim reveals his full form, now with 3 heads. Each head works together to overwhelm you, starting with a cluster of fireballs. These come out in groups of 6 to 9, splitting into 4 directions in a plus pattern if you destroy them. After this happens, the middle head morphs into a flamethrower. It will blast a long stream of fire straight down the center of the screen before going back to normal again and repeating this cycle. Now, if you did bring the chaser for you for phase 2, don't worry, the charge shot still works really well here, but it's a tactic very similar to Beppy. After getting a few hits off with the charge shot, you'll want to activate Super Art 2. Just gonna jump into the sprite of Grim. This is where you'll use the spread shot you brought if you didn't use the chaser, and he should be out before your invincibility wears out. I'm not gonna lie, I completely forgot to do this tactic in my winning run. And with that, we can finally move on to aisle 3, the Nightmare on Elm Street. I don't know how to segue this. Alright, let's have a look then, shall we? That'll work. Ladies and gentlemen, the warm-up is over. The curtain rises on aisle 3. A twisted... Yo, dude, you got a sec? Dude, get out, please. There's a reason why my door's closed. I'm gonna have to start this again now. My bad, man. Shouldn't you sort your bed up first? Yeah, well, why do you think the camera's pointed up so much? They can't see that. Okay, oh, jeez. Put some pants on. Come on, have some self-respect. It's not my fault it's hot, okay? It's fault. Get out. Aisle 3 is like having a roommate who pours his milk before his cereal. You want to be as far as possible from both of those monstrosities, but unfortunately for us, we have 7 roommates. Oh, so yes, this is the path we will be taking. Phase 1 starts off with Rumor sending out her security bee. He will toss bombs that explode after a few seconds, sending spikes in every direction. Some of them are pink, so you can parry them if you need cards. Meanwhile, you've got worker bees carrying suitcases flying across the screen. They're not much of a threat, but if you ignore them, it's just another thing that clutters the screen. The real pressure here though is the rising honey at the bottom of the screen. It forces you to keep climbing as the fight goes on, so you need to balance dodging attacks while making sure you don't get caught. Once security bee takes enough damage, he'll call the ambulance and then Rumor finally makes her appearance. Rumor mixes things up with a few different spells. She can summon Tetrahedron, that spits out powerful triangles or a striped pink orb that follows you slowly and can be parried multiple times. Every so often she'll drop her head down on a chain and spit out beam missiles in an S-shaped pattern across the arena, on both sides. If you're just doing a regular mode run like I am, the cycle is always beam missile, sphere spell, and the triangle spell. I'm not saying that again. The attack order depends on the difficulty you selected, but the idea is always the same. Keep moving up, watch your spacing, and don't get greedy with damage. Stay patient with this boss fight. After enough damage, Rumor pulls out a spellbook and starts chanting something. I've got no clue what it is since my girlfriend's the one who plays Mage in Terraria. So of course, I asked her.
She's reading her AO3. Her favorite author just came back from a 3-day trip at the hospital. I can see it in her eyes, that's what happened.
Well, she's my girlfriend, so I guess I gotta agree with her. Anyway, Rumors are playing now. She patrols back and forth while launching fist missiles that follow a swirling, unpredictable path meant to throw players off. Rumor also occasionally leans to one side, transforming that wing into a buzzsaw to slice players positioned above her. You can tell she's going to do this move when she begins leaning and the revving buzzsaw sound plays. Now personally, I find the first two bosses in R3 really easy. I never really struggled with this boss, so feel free to use your EX cards anywhere during this entire boss fight. The only place I can really think of you using them is just using the EX lobbers at the final phase, or using the invincibility trick during phase 1 when Rumor appears if you struggle with that phase. And with that, we are finally out of this sticky situation. At the start of the fight, Briny Beard mainly attacks by pulling out a pink octopus to fire bullets at the player, most of which can be parried. Meanwhile, an angry barrel swings back and forth overhead, threatening to crush anyone standing below. After slamming onto the dock, it briefly takes on a harmless, innocent look before being pulled back up. There is a few second cooldown for which he can repeat this cycle. As the fight goes on and Briny Beard takes more damage, he'll start calling in help from sea creatures one at a time. The squid. He sprays ink blobs that darken the screen if they hit you. If you find this really annoying and feel like you can't see the screen, then just hit him once with a full charge shot. But generally, I just like to ignore him because he's not too much of a threat. I can still see what's going on. The shark. He charges from the left side of the dock, covering a large chunk of planks, about 3/4. You can tell he's about to appear when you see the shark in the background. And of course, the two loud sirens. The dogfish. They are small snapping fish that leap from the right side of the screen. You can tell they're about to attack when you hear a whistle, and you can see the periscope appear. The dogfish is the only real threat out of these three, since the shark you can just hook the right side until it passes, the squid just darkens your screen so it doesn't do much, but the dogfish can actually catch you off guard. So, just use any quick pellet gun. I use the spread just because I like the spread. After more damage is dealt, the ship itself joins the fight, chewing up and spitting cannonballs across the dock. If you want to play it safe, run to the left and just jump when you see the cannonball appear. After the damage threshold is met, you'll be on to phase 2. For the final phase, Briny Beard gets tossed aside and now you're up against the ship itself. The ship has two main attacks, looping fireballs. It spits out 3 looping fireballs that curl through the air. You can actually very simply avoid these by just jumping over them. Pink laser beam. After spitting fireballs, the ship closes its mouth, charges up Hadouken, and unleashes a giant pink laser across the screen. You can dodge this either by ducking or jumping at the exact right time and continuously parry on top of the beam. I would just duck. Once you've done enough damage, the ship pulls a very interesting face, and that's the end of this boss. Now that we've got the easier bosses out of the way, we're now on to the final stretch, where we are now entering the hardest bosses in all of Cuphead. And first up is the one boss that I actually believe is the hardest boss in all of Cuphead, and that is none other than Calamaria. This one boss made me rack up another 11 restarts. 11. Before we even start talking about phase 1, please remember, you can only attack her head, which already sucks, considering the fact it's really hard to hit most of the time, because of all the things on the screen of course. She'll pull out one of 2 different types of fish. The red one spits out literal firefish everywhere. Some of them are pink so you can parry them if you want, and the yellow one summons a dolphin that homes in on you and then turns into a ring like some aquatic rave. On top of that, she can belch out ghost pirates that hunt you down, seahorses that shove you around so you can't move properly, turtles that carpet bomb the stage, and pufferfish that clog the screen. The best strategy here is to of course hug the top of the screen and focus only on our head. When it comes to both of the fish types, I like hugging the left side of the screen for more space, and also for whenever the dolphin gets close, I can go around them and focus fire still on their head. The seahorse has a weird knack to it. I found out that if you move to the opposite side of wherever it is, the second it gets close to you before it can actually shoot water at you properly, because otherwise you're just going to get stuck in the corner. Use the same strategy that you use for the fish as in for the turtle, because he just shoots pellets in like 8 directions, but it's not too bad if you're the top left of the screen, because then of course you have more space and time to work with. The pufferfish spawn in this like 3 wavy lines. So I would suggest just picking a line in between them and just slightly moving left and right whenever they get near you. Phase 2 is where things get brutal. Maria herself steps back and lets the electric eels take over. These little guys constantly spawn around her and fire 5-way split bullets, and if you don't take them out fast, the screen quickly turns into a complete bullet hell. I like to save all my EX cards for phase 2, so we can immediately use them. We see a bunch of electric eels group up at the bottom, so we can wipe out a bunch of the bullet hell on screen. While dodging the remaining eels that are spawning, Maria will occasionally fire her massive petrification ray, and if you get caught, you'll turn to stone. I actually found the exact number for this, but you'll need 22 inputs just to free yourself. So positioning is key so you don't get hit while you're frozen. If you are on a good button masher, then keep just above her and use bombs instead. After dealing enough damage, Maria's body turns to stone and crumbles, and we finally... This doesn't even make any sense, we've been shooting her head this entire time! The cavern phase. The screen scrolls continuously, filled with corals and random spike columns. On top of that, Calamaria's snake starts spitting out bubbles with skulls inside, moving up and down to restrict your movement. And her stone gaze? It's no longer optional. She fires a massive green ghost that can turn players to stone no matter where they are, so you have to be really alert for that button mashing. The longer you stay in this phase, the more guaranteed you are to get hit. So make sure that you're dishing out as many EX cards as you can. If you don't struggle with phase 2 as much as I do, make sure to save them instead for phase 3, so you can deal with this phase much quicker. You know, a lot of people watch and actually forget to subscribe, even though you're clearly enjoying the video. These take forever to make, so I'd really appreciate the support. Plus, the sooner you subscribe, the sooner your feed will be filled with gaming content you actually want to watch, instead of stupid Roblox brain rot.
Brawl is surely brewing. Here goes.
Dr. Kel's robot. Yet another boss that is a flyer that I hate doing. In phase 1 you've got 3 main targets, the head, the chest and the abdomen. Each one has its own health bar and its own unique attack. The head charges up and then shoots a laser which blocks all of your attacks. The chest sends out a pink parry bot that will delete you if you miss, so make sure you parry that. And the abdomen spawns drones that zigzag across the screen like they just snorted battery acid. Now you'd think you should target one section at a time, but you can actually hit both the chest and the abdomen with a bomb if you position yourself correctly. I like dealing with these 2 first because 1, it's faster and it kills 2 at the same time, but also because I hate dealing with the secondary attack that the head does once it's destroyed. Each attack has its own pattern that you'll have to deal with. You can easily bait out the laser, and by staying close to the robot you'll make the laser go straight down. This allows you to still attack the head with bombs, since the laser will no longer be in the way since it's taking up less space. You parry the pink bot as soon as you can so you don't get cornered. The drones that appear from the abdomen are quite easy to avoid, but if there's nothing else to hit, then you might as well just get rid of them. After destroying the antenna, this dude gets so annoyed that he starts spitting out nuts and bolts everywhere. They spread out in wide arcs, so your best bet is to stick to diagonal movement instead. After the chest is destroyed, you'll alternate between 2 new attacks. So the second you see this, you want to start moving against its pull, and since it's in the bottom left, you want to be focusing more on top right movement. The other attack is him sending out twisting arms through the middle of the screen, which can also fire out bullets vertically upon retracting. Once you see the hands appear, your best move is to go to the top of the screen instead of the bottom. Once the abdomen is destroyed, you'll have bombs that are homed in on you until the heart is destroyed. These bombs aren't good at taking corners, so use that to your advantage. Also, after enough time, more bombs will spawn, and if they collide with one another, they'll make a big explosion. Once you've destroyed all 3 parts of the robot, then the heart will appear. General strategy for this part is to stay in the middle of the screen and focus damage on the heart with your pellet gun. And if anything gets near you, then you move to the top left screen of the map and use the bombs instead. Just don't get too greedy with this part, because if you do, you can ruin your entire run. Finally, when the heart bursts, we can actually move on to phase 2. Yes, all of that was just one phase. This phase, to be honest, is pretty easy. The automaton's head detaches and starts charging back and forth across the screen, alternating from being on the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen, and then the cycle continues. Every time he reappears, a homing bomb will be spawned. That's the only real threat, to be honest. Just dodge the homing bombs when you can, make sure you don't run into the head. When he's on the bottom of the screen, I like using the bombs from a weird angle yet again. When he's on the top of the screen, I like going to the top left corner and shooting him with the pellet gun, and then I continue this cycle until we move on to phase 3. He's still stupidly difficult, even though he only does 2 attacks. Yay. In this final phase, Dr. Cal's main attack involves pulling out either a red gem or a blue gem from his robot's mouth. The red gem is actually more difficult due to the fact it fires 8 gems instead of the blue gem which only fires in 6. While dodging these, you'll also have to deal with the electrified walls that move in from the top or bottom of the screen, slowly closing off all escape routes. They completely block your shots too, so it's quite a tight space for survival while also trying to defeat the boss. Swapping from the main plane and the mini plane becomes essential here, constantly switching in and out of the best way to squeeze through gaps and avoid the walls while making sure to keep pressure on this boss. We know that once he uses the red gem, the next attack will be the blue gem, so we can almost treat this like a turn-based combat if you want to. I like staying patient when he uses the red gem because it's a lot more hectic, so I focus on defense so I don't get hit. But for the blue gem, I go for full aggression mode and I get right up as close as I can, dishing out as many EX cards as possible. So the trick here isn't aggression, it's patience. Chip away at him slowly and focus entirely on survival. The damage will come naturally if you keep the pressure consistent. After enough damage is dealt, the robot is finally defeated and Dr. Cal... Are we sure this is a kid's game? Sally's stage play wastes no time by making a dramatic entrance. She'll start by leaping into the air before corkscrewing straight down at you. It's pretty fast to be on high alert. A very simple tactical that I like doing is just standing still and just before she's about to hit me, just dashing away. Sometimes, however, she'll hang in the air, twirling gracefully before tossing out her signature fans. If they miss you, they'll land on the floor and act as traps, punishing any bad dodges. Then there's her parasol trick. She disappears inside it and a few seconds later she slams down from above like some divine punishment. Her landing zone is often just a bit off from where you're standing, but never assume you're safe. What I like to do is dash just when I can see her falling from the sky. Even if she falls to the right of me instead of the left of me, I will still dash to the left just so I don't break this habit. Finally, there's her kiss attack. She pauses, blows a heart-shaped projectile, and it drifts slowly across the screen towards you. You can parry it or simply dodge out the way, but come on, it's a free EX card. And it's also a great time to get a bunch of damage off since she stands still to do this animation. The best general strategy here is spacing and patience. When possible, keep your shots aimed upward, stay off the center stage when she goes airborne, and save your EX cards for later phases. As Act 2 opens, the curtain rises to reveal her home. A cozy little set complete with her husband hiding in the bushes and her kids watching from the windows. Right out the gate, she keeps her corkscrew drive and those fan throws from phase 1, but this time she's picked up a new trick, the wind up mice. And these guys are so annoying. She spins her parasol dramatically and 2 of those little guys scurry out on both sides, crawling along the ground, up the walls and across the ceiling before dropping straight down on top of you. These things are deceptively dangerous, so what you want to do is bait out the mice by standing underneath them and then running to the right or to the left, depending where you are. And if the mice weren't enough, Sally's kids start throwing milk bottles from the windows. They're one of those low threat attacks, so it's quite common that you don't pay attention to them and then suddenly you got hit in the back of the head with a bottle. The parasol teleport and kiss attacks are gone, so this fight is a little less random, but it makes up with it for speed. Sally's more aggressive and the screen's constantly filled with hazard. Stand still for even a second and you're sure to get hit, so you have to keep moving while firing to get past this phase. This is where I use all my EX cards because I consider this the hardest phase. Eventually, after enough hits, Sally pulls off her most dramatic moment yet. Even more dramatic than when your girlfriend gets upset at you because you said love you instead of I love you. On to Act 3, and apparently we've made it to heaven, but unfortunately it's not the one that you've read in the Bible. This is Sally's goddess form, a massive cardboard cutout version of herself controlled by stagehands above. This is peak Cuphead nonsense, honestly. This phase introduces 3 new attacks, each teased by a little cardboard sign that pops up on the top left corner of the screen. First up is Meteor. A big cardboard meteor drops straight down. Shoot it as soon as it appears, destroy it and reveal a pink star. You will need this. If you leave it alone, you're setting yourself up to get hit in about 2 seconds. Because next up is a big wave. A cardboard tidal wave rolls across the stage, and the only way to clear it is by parrying that pink star from the meteor. If you have the smoke bomb charm though, you can actually dash through it with some good timing and just skip it. The last attack is lightning, and this one can be annoying. The bolts strike down directly where you're standing and can be quite sporadic, so just keep moving and dash when necessary. And now finally, the final act. Sally's stage play, even the performer, returns for her grand finale. A halo, angel outfit, and all drifting across the stage like she's ready to collect her Oscar. The audience is cheering, the priest's clapping, her husband's back there pretending everything's fine, and the kids are probably traumatized. Everything looks fine at first, until a sentient parasol decides to go rogue. Somehow though, in this phase, the real threat is actually the roses. The audience starts tossing them from the foreground and they land right where you least expect it. This phase though honestly isn't even that difficult, since Sally has like practically no HP and only takes a couple shots to defeat. The only real struggle here is actually just trying to hit her while she's moving. You kind of have to put the shot just before where she's going to move instead of trying to hit directly at her. If you struggle with doing this, just bring the track shot, it makes it so much easier, and since she's so squishy, there's not really much of a time difference. Blind Septet. He slams his palms into the ground, sending a barrage of bouncing eyeballs your way. You can actually shoot these down before they reach you, and I would definitely do that first because you will get hit if you don't, because it will turn the entire arena into an absolute chaos. The platform you're standing on moves along the train tracks, but not on its own. It only shifts when you parry the faults on either end. This is a key element during the entire fight, because pumpkins will float in from either side, dropping pink ingots that move the platform closer to Blind Scepter. You'll want to destroy the eyeballs the second they spawn. I don't bother with the pumpkins though, because you can just parry the ingot before it hits the vault. You can also either A, use the pea shooter to destroy them from a distance, or B, play a bit riskier and use the spread shot, but you will have to be closer. So you are more likely to get hit, but it makes his phase way faster. Next up is the conductor himself. He bursts out of his carts with his massive skeletal arms, slamming them down on the stage in an attempt to crush you. Each time he disappears, the game does what I like to call a status check. What this means is the game will randomly decide where his head will pop out from alongside his arms. This cycle is then repeated until you're on to the third phase. So positioning of course is everything in this phase. You'll want to move the platform directly beneath his head to stay out of reach from his hands so you can also damage him. If you're caught out of place though, you can also dodge by standing on either edge of the platform. Again, I would advise just ignoring the pumpkins because they're not too much of a threat, but if you are worried that you can get slid straight into one of the hands, just stand on the edge of the platform and you'll be fine. Once Papyrus' dad is defeated, 2 lollipop ghouls appear on opposite sides of the screen, and you've got to take them both down individually. They rain down lightning from their mouths while they slowly drift closer towards you, forcing you to constantly watch both sides of the stage. The pumpkins that we've literally been ignoring this entire fight are now gone, and they're now swapped out for the spooks, which are these little ghost guys with blankets on top of their heads that are homing straight towards you. When destroyed, they drop a pink skull that can be parried or shift the platform's position. As soon as this phase starts, head straight to one side and focus on the ghoul above you. If you act fast enough, you can actually defeat it before the second one even attacks. The key is hugging the far left or far right edge of the screen. From there, neither goal can actually hit you. Once the first one is defeated, just shift across and finish the second. But because of the spooks, I decide to only use the spread shot attack, even if I can't hit the ghoul. And that is just so I never have to worry about these little guys. Once both goals have melted away, the train clears up and you're free to move on to the final phase. Now for the grand finale, the head of the train. As you ride forward, it blows its whistle in rage and breaks free from the rest of the cars, charging after you off the rails. It gallops left and right, spitting out rings of bones that drop from its nose and roll across the screen if they line up with your height. To actually damage it, you'll need to hit its core, but it's protected by a metal grate. The only way to open it up is by parrying the train's tail. Once you do, the grate opens up, letting you attack the weak spot while dodging small fireballs that rain down. After a few seconds, the grate slams shut again, and you'll have to parry the tail to reopen it. Even though this takes longer, I actually wait to open the grate until I feel like I'm actually ready for all the projectiles to spill out, instead of always prioritizing damage. The other 3 phases I find rather easy to be honest, but this one I absolutely hate, since I died several times just to this one phase. So I bring the invincibility here just so I can ignore all the projectiles and deal enough damage. Just don't do what I did and use it too late. Werner Werman opens the fight in a classic bruiser fashion, loud, chaotic, and right in your face. He's rolling back and forth in his oversized soup can tank, using two main attacks to keep you on your toes. First up, the cherry cannon. A spring-loaded cannon pops out, firing 5 cherry bombs that explode on impact. If they hit the ground, they send out fiery shockwaves in both directions, turning the floor into a hazard zone. Of course you're going to want to jump over this, but don't jump too high, because if you do, you won't have enough time to be able to jump again before the second one hits you. Next he'll switch to the scrap attack. A catapult launches random junk at you. Bottle caps, bolts, coins, even pieces of gum. The gum can actually be parried though, so I guess that's a good thing. After each attack, Werner sends up 2 springboards on the ground before charging across the arena. You'll need to parry them to vault over his massive tank, or use the smoke bomb to dash through him. So in short, the strategy is this: do low jumps, dash for the projectiles when you can, and dash through the boss when you can, or use the springboards, and just focus fire with that charge shot. Phase 2 turns up the heat quite literally. Werner's tank loses its front plating, revealing 2 flamethrowers mounted underneath his seat. How his pants aren't on fire, I have no idea. But he starts blasting fire streams to both sides while moving up and down the wall. The trick is to quickly move to the position he just left. This keeps you safe while he's busy torching the opposite side. Of course though, it's not that simple, since 2 columns of spinning bottle caps appear on both edges of the arena. These act like buzzsaws that extend and retract in pairs, forcing you to pay attention to both sides of the screen. Sometimes a full column will activate at once, which is your cue to stay clear and reposition to the opposite side fast. You can tell when a buzzsaw is about to extend because it will start spinning, unlike the other ones which are sitting idle. This phase can either be the easiest one or the hardest one of this entire fight, and that is just simply because it comes down to RNG, which if you didn't know is a random number generator. I got quite lucky in my run, because whenever Werner was torching one of the platforms, so was the buzzsaw on that layer, so I never was worried about moving to the opposite side, which made this phase such a breeze. But if you get bad RNG, which you probably will to be honest because this is Cuphead, then I suggest the invincibility trick that we did before. After enough hits, Werner starts panicking, frantically pulling his levers as machine sputters and smokes. Remember that cat we can see lurking in the background? Yeah, he's now eaten Werner. The final phase pits you against Katzenwagen, the mechanical cat that's been watching from the shadows this entire fight. It opens its mouth to unleash spectral rats dressed in old prison uniforms, each summoning pink crystal orbs that they toss towards you. When these orbs hit the ground, they'll explode into 2 waves of fire, but if you parry the orb before it lands, you can completely stop that from happening. As soon as this phase opens up, I immediately spam as many EX cards as I can into the cat's face, and once those rats show up, I immediately get rid of them, not because the orbs are an issue, but because it's really easy to jump into them when you're trying to dodge everything else. Katzenwagen doesn't just sit still either, it will slam its paw into the floor, shaking the screen and causing wooden boards to rain from above. These fall side to side in a pattern, so if possible stay on the side in which this pattern originates so you don't have to worry about the falling planks. Once you've dealt enough damage, the cat's face falls off. It was Werner all along. With the last of that Tom and Jerry ripoff finally squashed into the ground, it's time to leave and dive straight into Inkwell Hell. King Dice greets us with that signature smirk, popping up from behind his giant board game like he's been waiting all this time just to mess with us. To reach him, we've got to first play his little game first. And like I just said, it's a literal board game. Each parry on the dice decides how far you'll move, landing on spaces that either grant you with safety, bless you with extra health, or curse you with one of its henchmen. If you mess up and die to any of them, you're back to the start. Also, all your health is carried over between these mini bosses, so make sure to play safe. Unfortunately for us, most of the board is filled with mini bosses, and the way that this board game is designed, you are guaranteed to at least fight 3 of them before fighting King Dice himself. Now, I'm going to give you a choice, okay? You can either A, aim to land on every health buff space until you meet King Dice, or B, take what I believe are the 3 easiest mini-bosses, that being Chips Bettingun, Pip and Dot, and Perletta. I swear I already made this joke. Or of course you can make your own route. Also feel free to use EX cards, just make sure you have 5 left at the end of the board game. For the sake of time, I'm just going to cover what I believe are the 3 easiest. Okay, so this is a quick editor's note. While I was looking back at the video, I realised I forgot to mention something here, and that's how the dice works, or like at least the easiest way to use it. The idea is to jump after the number you want. So for example, if you wanted a 2, you're going to want to jump on 3 and then late parry, and it should land on 2. Also, if at any point you want a 1, just immediately parry the dice before King Dice moves his hand away from it. First up we got Chips Pettigan. He's a stack of poker chips that floats from side to side, breaking himself apart to try and hit you. The trick here is that you can only damage his head, the blue poker chips at the top. It's best not to get greedy while he's attacking. Wait for him to stop moving, then unload on that blue stack with the charge shot. If you have the smoke bomb, you can just dash through all of his attacks and the fight will be over before you know it. Next up is Pip and Dot, the domino duo who just really can't keep their cool. Throughout this entire fight they're swinging back and forth like they're turning on a playground, but trust me, they're anything but harmless. I've really got to stop with these cringy one-liners. Pip flips open his hat and summons this creepy little domino bird that flies straight towards you. It's basically just a living obstacle, but I just usually ignore it. Their second attack is a bit trickier. They'll spit out a d20 that bounces around the arena in zigzags. Blue and orange ones just hurt you, but the pink one you can parry, so you can use them for extra cards if you need it. Strategy wise, I would actually suggest hugging the spiked wall, and that is just because you're further away from the mini boss, so any attack he throws at you or the spikes on the ground you'll have way more time to react to. And finally, we've got Pirouetta, the ballerina of bad luck, spinning right on top of a roulette table. She never stops moving, constantly dancing from one side of the stage to the other, which makes dodging her a real nightmare if you're not paying attention. Your only safe spots here are the 4 poker chips floating above the table. You can parry them to flip them over and create temporary platforms, but they don't stay that way forever. But it's almost like we have something called a smoke bomb which just lets her dash through her. This boss is so easy with the smoke bomb, she's literally not a threat, this is all she does. I mean, she can also stop to spin where she'll launch a wave of roulette balls that rain down from across the stage. They start wide then close and draw in the centre, forcing you to find one safe gap in between. But then again, you can just dash out of this too. She's just, yeah. And with that, King Dice finally steps up to the table. His only attack is a barrage of cards that he flicks out of his hand, 12 at a time marching across the screen. 4 of those cards, the pink hearts, are your lifeline. You'll need to chain parries across them to stay alive while the rest pass underneath. The key here is rhythm and precision. It's not always about shooting, it's about survival in this boss. Keeping as calm as you can while you're bouncing from one pink heart to the next. Fail to do so and, well, I'm sure you've seen The Lion King. Can technically hide behind his attack in hand if you predict which side he's using, but it's not even worth it unless you brought the track shot. But even then, the spread shot is better because it does way more damage with his EX cards because all 8 pellets actually hit the boss this time. Strategy wise, you want to master the parry timing. Just don't do what I did when I was younger and spam the jump button. Instead, you want to commit to each parry cleanly, otherwise it won't work. Eventually, after a few cycles of this and enough hits taken, King Dice will be defeated and will only have one boss left. This guy's got way too many attacks, and for the final boss, that's exactly what you'd expect. The Devil's first phase is all about chaos, with constant transformations, projectiles, and minions flooding the screen from every direction. To start, he'll chant an incantation and swing his pitchfork to create one of 3 different projectile patterns. The first is 4 crystal balls that bounce around the arena erratically. One of these is pink, so it can be parried, which is useful for building your super meter so early on. The balls can easily trap you in corners, so the best strategy is to keep moving and take advantage of any parry windows that are possible. The second is 5 fireballs with eyes, 4 blue ones that orbit around a pink one in the centre. The pattern moves left to right and back again, and that one pink fireball can be parried of course. The trick here is to focus on dodging the rotation rather than chasing the parry. The evolving motion can bait you out into mistiming your jumps, even your dashes. The third projectile attack is a hexagon formation of 6 fireballs that float for a second before homing in on you. One of these is parryable, but the key is that it starts from left to right, so you'll know which one is going to launch at you next. Alongside these projectiles, the devil will also transform into different forms mid-fight, each with their own unique attacks. In his goat form, he stretches his arms from both sides of the arena, trying to crush you in the middle. It looks simple at first, but it's all about timing. Jumping in too early or too late will get you hit. You used to be able to crouch under it, and that's the tactic I used to do, but that's actually been patched out now and I didn't realise in my run. Next is spider form, where the devil sprouts extra arms and his head detaches, growing extra eyes and legs. He'll slam down 3 to 5 times at random points on the screen. The best approach here is to watch for him at the top of the screen every few seconds, because he has to recharge his attack and it lasts roughly 3 seconds. Then there's the serpent form, where his head turns into a long dragon-like serpent that slithers across the arena. Most of this boss fight you will be standing in the middle just to hit the devil, and the the idea of this attack is to trap you in a corner. So, very simply, just look at which side the serpent is attacking from and go to the opposite one. If you're paranoid about getting hit by one of these little purple demons, just use your spread shot and attack the wall of the screen that you're standing next to. If not, pay attention to the background and just keep focusing fire with your charge shot on the devil. Talking about these purple demon minions, they will crawl out from behind his throne, alternating from left to right. These little guys aren't too durable, but they're fast, and if you ignore them, they can very quickly take you off guard and hit you. If you aren't trapped in a corner, then I suggest just ignore them by either dashing through them or jumping and dashing past them, because they aren't too much of a threat. But if you are stuck in a corner, I suggest shooting them down with your spread shot or charge shot. After taking enough damage, the devil lets out a terrifying roar, rips his skeleton out of his skin, and dives into a hole in the center of an arena, and if you don't follow him quickly, you'll be consumed by the walls of fire closing in from both sides. I miss old-fashioned cartoons. After diving into the pit, the devil reveals his true form, a massive towering giant who fills nearly the entire screen. His phase instantly shifts the fight scale and intensity, forcing you onto 5 small floating platforms where every bit of movement counts. Your main goal here is to shoot directly at his eyes while dodging his relentless attacks from above, below and the sides. His first move sees him merging his 2 eyes into one, creating a blazing axe made entirely of fire. The axe spins in a spiral motion across the screen, sweeping through the platforms and punishing anyone who misjudges their jump. It's a deceptively tricky attack because the axe doesn't always follow the same path. Sometimes it loops close to the platforms, other times it arcs wider. Now this may sound a bit odd, but because of this I actually stay near the axe spawn, and this is because the first loop isn't a threat, the second one you can just slightly move to the next platform, and the third arc doesn't even pose a threat. Unless of course you move to the opposite side of the arena. The devil's second attack in this form creates a bat-like bomb from one of his eyes which he launches through either his left or right ear depending on which eye it came from. The moment you see the devil do this animation, you want to immediately run to the ear that the bomb is going to come out of, because you're going to want to parry that immediately. Because if you hesitate, it has a chance to fly towards you and then you get blocked off and you're forced to get hit. And besides, it's another EX card. And lastly, there's flaming poker chips that start raining down from the top of the screen. These chips are deceptively dangerous. They follow a pattern alternated between the left and the right sides before looping back round. So for example, if the first one falls to the left, then the next one will be on the right, and so on. It is predictable in that sense, but the sheer speed and number of them can easily catch you off guard. How I deal with this is very simple. If it's on the left side it's just attacked, then I'm running to the left side because it's now going to attack the right, and vice versa, until eventually we've entered phase 3. Now properly enraged, the devil starts having a temper tantrum, his massive head darting from side to side as the arena begins to crumble. The platforms beneath you drop from 5 to just 3, instantly making the fight feel tighter and more claustrophobic. With less room to move, the falling poker chips from before become even deadlier. At this point, the devil stops fighting directly and instead begins summoning his minions to do his dirty work. The first that he calls upon are 2 large purple winged demons that swoop in from either side of the screen. These things continuously spit out streams of skulls, some blue, some pink, the latter of which can be parried for an advantage. The tricky part about these guys is that they don't stay still. They slowly drift up and down, constantly shifting the height of their attacks and forcing you to adjust on the fly. You can shoot them down with enough damage, but it's not worth it since the devil will just summon replacements soon after, keeping the pressure relentless. Out of all of the devil's phases, I find this one the hardest, simply because of these guys. So I make sure I have 5 EX cards to use the invincibility trick, so I don't have to worry at all with all the minions he's summoning. The second type of enemy he conjures is a swarm of small blue winged demons that form just above his head. They hover in place for a moment, wings spinning like saw blades before they dive towards you one after another. They do home in quite quickly to be honest, but don't take much to destroy. Still though, in such a cramped space, even a few of them can throw you off a rhythm or force you onto a bad dodge. I usually just ignore these guys or dodge somewhere else, but if I genuinely feel like it's going to put me in a bad situation or I'm going to get hit, I just quickly swap to my spread shot to deal with them while they're charging at me. At last, the devil has entered psychosis. His once commanding presence crumbles into a pitiful display as he begins to cry blood. His booming voice replaced with tortured sobs that echo through the fiery pit. The arena collapses even further, with only a single platform remaining in the center, forcing you into a desperate standoff against a fallen angel. With no tricks left, the devil resorts to sheer chaos. Poker chips continue rain down from above, threatening to crush you, while his bloody tears drip from his eyes and fall beside the lone platform. Every tear can be parried, but the speed and frequency of them makes it basically pointless. You're guaranteed to get hit if you risk it. It's a brutal, claustrophobic finale. One last test of endurance and precision. Honestly, there isn't even much of a strategy to this phase. All you have to do is jump to the side to avoid the falling chips, and just hope you don't get hit by a tear. Or of course you can try and parry it if that does happen. But at this point, the fight just turns into pure chaos. A fittingly unfair ending that perfectly shows how desperate the devil has become. He's completely lost control, flailing and weeping as everything around him falls apart. All you can really do is hang on, keep dodging, and hope that you defeat him before he defeats you, so Inkwell Isle will finally be free from his control, and he will be forced to face judgment for his own sins. Okay, I was just recording the outro, and I realised something. I forgot to do the 2 run and gun levels in this area. I mean, it technically wasn't a part of the challenge to begin with, because it's not a 100% in the game, but might as well. For this run and gun level, there isn't anywhere specific where you have to tank a hit, so honestly, it's just about dodging all the different types of fishes on the screen. This is of course if you want to do pacifist. So just evade well enough and before you know it, you would have passed this level. However, for this one, I did run through the entire level without killing anything. I did technically destroy 2 walls, but I didn't think those counted as enemies, but there's no way to get past them. So can someone please explain to me how you do this pacifist? Like, I really don't know. Same with the first run and gun level, like how do you do that one either? Still, in such a cramped space, even a few of them can throw you off a Rimum. Rimum? What is Rimum? Cuphead is one of those games that literally chew you up and then spit you out later, but for some dumbass reason, you really like it. Maybe it's because it's like a mix of like misery and mastery, I don't really know, but it's quite fun. I've loved this game since I was a little kid. I forever will, to be honest. It holds a place in my heart. And I still remember way back when I just couldn't defeat King Dice was that stupid card move and I didn't know how to time stuff. But now I hate that Medusa woman even more. I don't even know her name. Medusa woman is now her name. This isn't the end of Cuphead videos because I've really enjoyed revisiting this and I hope to again. I actually remember while I was streaming this and then getting extra footage for this, which is mostly the Milkman, if you couldn't tell. But I really started getting this temptation to attempt to defeat this Hitless. I don't know if it's been done before, so if you stuck around for all of this, especially in one sitting, thank you, you're an absolute legend. You should probably go get some water though, I'm not gonna lie. But thanks for hanging out. More stuff will be coming soon, don't worry about that. Probably more fun, definitely way more harmful to my... I'll see you in the next one. That sounds like YouTube cliche. Brush your teeth. That's my outro now.